Day two check-in. So this morning they got into the cranial work. What was the biggest response feedback that you got while they were working on cranial stuff?
Just how subtle it is. I think that's kind of the overall take we get from all the classes is, oh, just so little pressure and such a big change. So much of the body worker mentality is like harder is better. And if it doesn't work, hit it with a bigger hammer. And that's not really true. You get some really powerful changes from some really subtle movements.
So now they're getting into the kind of reflex releases that we teach. How would you describe what's happening conceptually?
So we've done a bunch of the global techniques, the primals, things that get the overall system more receptive, and now we're getting into the individual techniques that kind of drill down and get into the specifics of the different areas. So for wherever you're feeling the restriction, now we're getting into the more specifics to treat those areas directly, to get that extra layer treatment.
One of the things that we focus on from a teaching standpoint is that reciprocal inhibition could be one of the mechanisms that's happening. It's not the only one. But so conceptually, if they're looking at it and they're trying to release a certain muscle, how would you approach that?
That's when we use reciprocal inhibition as a tool that's where knowing the anatomy makes a difference, because if you know what is opposite to the muscle you're trying to release, that's the one you're going to stimulate, or that muscle group in some cases. So this is where we get into the specifics of how specifically to release a psoas, for example, or how to specifically release, triceps or lats or traps. In that case, you're going to need to know the individual mechanism for that particular area.
Sure.